Hello and welcome to this edition of the Manatee Glens Report. I'm Sandra Guffey, the Public Relations Director for Manatee Glens, the specialty hospital and outpatient practice for mental health and addictions in our area. Today we're going to get creative and think with the right side of the brain, which tends to be a little more imaginative. We're talking about expressive arts. Art can soothe, relax, and promote healing. With us to help us understand and enjoy the process of art and creation are Deborah McKeever, a licensed mental health counselor and certified expressive arts therapist with Manatee Glens. She's also owner of the gallery Still Life in G in the Bradenton Village of the Arts. Also with us is Jason Winfield. He's a client artist. Thank you both so much for being with us. We're going to have some fun today. I think we need to start, though, Deborah, with you and explaining what do we mean by expressive arts therapy.
Expressive arts therapy is another avenue for the clients to express what's going on inside, emotionally, mentally, physically. Many clients are not versed in verbally really communicating. And so we use all the arts, not just visual art, but writing, movement, sound, drama, through using puppets.
Puppets, that's fun. Explain to me what is the benefit of puppets?
I brought two puppets with me today, and the heads are made from paper mache. Mm-hmm. The client can use the puppet to talk for them. They could give a name to the puppet, and then the therapist can interact with the puppet rather than directly talking to the client. So it's 1 degree of separation for the client, and that allows a greater safety. They feel more comfortable in doing that. Sometimes we even have the therapist also using a puppet, and so one puppet is talking to the other puppet. So that's 2 degrees of separation then, and affords them just more comfort in talking.
And you could use this with children and adults?
Absolutely. Yeah, we use it a lot with adults. So if I get nervous here, I can just have my bird talk to you.
Well, I'll take a bird and talk. I like that idea. Jason, you are an artist yourself, and you have been involved in a wide array of art. I want to start with this quilt piece, though, which is fantastic. Just tell us a little bit about what this is.
Well, what this is a quilt that I designed. I used Photoshop to actually take all the pictures and enhance them. Mm-hmm. I turned them all into like an alfresco type mode so they don't look photograph-like. And then I printed them onto a fabric. Then I put them all together onto this other piece of fabric here and behind this piece of fabric, and we stitched it all together. A lot of it represents places that I've been since I've been sick, and experiences that I have and things that I enjoy to do and people that I love. So it turned out very nice, I think.
It's beautiful and it's intricate. I don't know if the folks at home can see the detail that goes into this, but the fabric. Now, did you sew before you started into
I didn't
quilting?
do the sewing. That's a lot of what we did was teamwork when we made this quilt.
Okay.
There were people on hand to help us with quilting. I just did the design.
Okay.
And then there were some other people involved in the project that actually took care of the stitching and the quilting of it. Up here are the 3 different organizations within Manatee Glens that I've been involved with since inception. SRT, which is no longer in existence, but it stands for Short-Term Residential Treatment. FACT Team, which I'm currently on, and OPD, which is Outpatient Detox, which Deb McKeever is involved with.
Right.
So this was sort of a Manatee Glens art in recovery type project that I took on. I'd never done anything with this medium before. This was all new to me, and I was a little bit apprehensive going into it. But it turned out very nice, and I was very pleased with the results.
Well, it is fabulous. And Deborah, since he brought up the project, this was part of an overall quilt project that you did.
Yes.
How did that work?
Yes. It was the Narrative Art Quilt project. We had 4 clients. These 4 clients are all artists, but they had not had really any experience working in fabric. So it was really a wonderful project. They came to the hospital for 6 months, once a week for 2 hours, and to work on and design their 30-inch quilt square. They each made one. and they didn't really know each other before they started the project, but they really bonded, and each week they would kind of tell everybody in the group where they were with their project, and people would offer suggestions and support. It was just a great project.
You said something to me before about how this quilting was traditionally a community event.
Exactly.
People would all get together and they would quilt
Exactly.
together.
Yes, yes. And so it was really a community project. It was a great educational opportunity for everybody involved. The 2 quilters involved were actually students in the Ringling program, in the Art and Healing program from Ringling. And then we had our clients, and I kind of coordinated the project. And then the finale was exhibiting the quilts at our annual client art show in the fall. And so up on the wall next to each quilt square, each of the clients gave a little history of their own journey of recovery. So it was an opportunity to educate the public about how mental illness impacts individuals.
Absolutely, and it makes it more real, more clear. The public responded well, I imagine?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you made a poster that is going to the National Expressive Arts
Yes,
Therapy
there's an
Conference?
international conference in the San Francisco Bay area in March. So, yeah.
That's exciting. We're
Absolutely.
represented there, so
Absolutely.
people can see what Jason and his fellow artists did.
Right.
And would you recommend this, Jason, as a project for other artists to try or embark on?
Oh, absolutely. It was something I'd never tried before, is working with fabrics and stitching and getting different textures together, and it really surprised me how well it turned out relative to what I thought my capabilities were within the realm of art and fabrics and things of that nature.
So what was comfortable for you? Where did you start as an artist? What was your first media?
Probably finger painting.
I love finger painting. That's the only thing I can do.
Probably finger painting in kindergarten, preschool.
Yeah.
But no, really, the medium I use most is jewelry making. I love beads, and what I do with jewelry is my passion, and I really like complicated, complex patterns. The more complicated, the more I get into them. And so that's what I'm most currently involved with right now, is jewelry making, beaded jewelry, woven jewelry, different spiral patterns and woven patterns where I make something come alive that I've seen somewhere in a magazine or in another art store.
Well, I
And,
think Deborah's wearing some of your pieces right now. We have our
Yeah.
model here.
Yeah.
I like the colors that you use too, and as you said, it's intricate. And
yeah, this one is a cha-cha bracelet. It's made with amethyst.
yeah,
If
cha-cha.
you shake your wrist a little bit.
Yeah,
Deb,
there you go.
You can see it makes a cha-cha noise. This is actually, all these beads are wired to a chain spine that runs through the center. They're all hand wrapped and hand wired, and it's all sterling silver wire as well as sterling silver clasp. This piece here, I don't know if you can get this on camera, yeah. This piece here is I made from hex nuts from the hardware store. Actually bought, if you can get a view of the side of this, hold your hand this
There
way.
you go.
I don't know if you can or not. These are made from hex nuts, actual 1/4-inch hex nuts that I bought in stainless steel, and I wove them together using a peyote stitch pattern, which is a brick stitch, and I wove them together 5 times with fishing line, and it's sturdy enough to hold together, and it's on a magnetic clasp that comes off real easy and snaps together real easy. So that was a piece I did. This
Hold
piece
your
here.
arm up. Yeah.
This piece here is called Goosebump Peyote. Peyote is a stitch in bead making where you weave fabric out of beads. These tiny little seed beads actually get woven into a fabric that makes a stitch. And what's unique about this is that these bumps actually puff up. And what happens is, the smaller you travel through the pattern this way, and you're going left to right, and as you make your left and right turns, you add smaller and smaller beads to the mix. And those smaller and smaller beads, as you start to add small beads, it compresses the pattern and forces the goosebump to pop up. So that's a fun pattern to do. I've made several of these, and people really seem to like them a lot. The secret in this whole idea is that you don't see the thread. That's the trick. People don't realize there might be 30 or 40 feet worth of thread in this one bracelet, but if you look real close, you can't see any thread at all. So that's the real trick. This is one of my most prized pieces right here. It's called the Licken. It's a German pattern that I bought. Let me take it off her wrist real
Poor
quick.
Deborah's arm's going to get tired there.
Let me show you this. We can get
Hold
a shot
that
of
up
this.
here. Yeah.
I don't know if we can get a
beautiful.
shot of this.
Well, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about that then.
This pattern right here was actually a pattern that I purchased. It came with the beads and all the materials that I needed, and it was the most complicated pattern I've ever worked on, ever. It took me almost 100 hours to make this bracelet. It has flaps on the front that fold over, and every bead is individually placed based on what the pattern said. So this was one of my prized pieces, and nobody's bought it yet, but I plan on selling it very soon. So.
Okay, well, that subtle hint there. That's a terrific piece, Jason, and the amount of work that goes into something like this shows that you have great patience, I would say, as well as an artistic eye.
Absolutely.
Which is to be commended. Something
Thank
that I don't have either of. Deborah, he was talking about some jewelry and some of these things that we've done in groups. Do you find that most of the artists enjoy working together, and is that helpful?
I think they do because it sparks ideas. And when we're doing a art group at the hospital, many of the clients in the group haven't done any art, as Jason said, really, since they were in elementary school and finger painted.
Right.
So initially it can be a little threatening because they will always say, well, I'm not an artist. But the expressive arts are not about producing a product, a beautiful end product. It's really about being able to express what is inside. So it's this process of doing that and just going with that little internal voice that says, pick up the red oil pastel and make a spiral over in the right hand corner. Just kind of following with your inner voice.
Yes. And I saw that when we were with the middle school students,
right?
Where I think they were a little hesitant at first. Now they were doing something called touch painting, which we have some samples here.
Right.
I don't know if you want to show us one of the touch paintings, which reminded me of finger painting.
Absolutely, it's a very similar process. It's done with we start off with a transparency that we tape to the table. The transparency is something that they used to use with overhead projectors, and then what the clients do is they roll using a brayer. They roll oil paint onto the transparency. Then they put a piece of tracing paper on top of that, and then they're only allowed to use their fingers or any part of their hand to create the image. Then they pull that piece of tracing paper off. You have to let it dry. Once it's dry, we mount that on a piece of watercolor paper with the paint side up, and then they can go back in and they can add color with watercolor or oil pastel.
So it's very involved. I mean, they get kind of dirty, kind of messy.
Oh, it's very messy.
Love.
Yes, I'm not sure people like to see me coming, but because we do get paint on the table, but we don't use anything that can't be removed with soap and water. So.
Exactly. And so was that a self-portrait that you're holding
Yes,
there?
yes. I many times ask them to do their face, and sometimes I ask them to close their eyes and do their face. So this was done by Jim, who's a client in the Adult Day Treatment Program, and he actually, at the client art show that opened this last Friday, actually won first place.
He did.
Absolutely. And then I brought a couple of more. This was done by the middle school student, Calvin,
Right.
and he won second place. And he told me that this is a picture of a tiger. It looks like the tiger's behind bars. So a bit sad, I think.
Well, and you know, I remember when he was doing that, he actually made a mistake
Yes.
in the process, and so he
Yes.
found a way around that and came up with
Absolutely.
something, and he won.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that's a great lesson right there.
Yes, yes. And he wasn't able to come to the show, so yesterday I was able to go to the class and present him with his red ribbon and his check for $75.
That's a lot of money.
Absolutely. It's a juried show, and the funding for the prize money is given by the Art Guild of Manatee County.
Excellent. Really a community event.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anyway, he was absolutely thrilled. He just couldn't believe that he won. So, and then this one was done by a client from the Addiction Center and is also a face.
Beautiful colors. Yes.
So,
And is there a reason you choose faces?
I'm interested in the internal face, really, not the external face, and so that's what I asked them to do.
That's the difference between doing art and expressive arts
Absolutely.
therapy. Is you're
Absolutely.
getting to something beyond the product.
Exactly.
And would the
Exactly.
mask also be along those lines? Now, I know that mask falls over there.
Right, I won't pick it
We
up.
won't pick it up, but that mask is beautiful. What was the purpose there?
Well, this mask, I was working with a group of young girls who are 10, 11, and 12. And so what we did is we started out with a plastic form of the face, and then they wrapped that in Glad wrap, and then they applied paper mache over. And then the assignment was on half of the mask to illustrate feelings that they show, and on the other half feelings that that remain hidden. And the girls just had a wonderful time doing this. Actually, they come for an hour on Tuesdays, and they worked on these for about a month.
Excellent. Did you get involved with some of these in your travels through Manatee Glens? Jason, were you I know obviously the quilt project was a huge project. Were there some other things that you did that you enjoyed while you were there? Did you maybe do a tile perhaps, or one of the...
I did make a tile with Deb. It was a Snoopy tile. And this was a different art therapy, but this is the tile that I made. It had a little Snoopy resting on the top of his doghouse there.
Is there a reason you chose Snoopy?
I think he's just a very peaceful dog, and that he knows how to relax and have a really just a relaxing day. You know,
Yes.
Snoopy knows how to chill out. So
That's a good lesson for all of us, isn't
yeah.
it?
But Deb knows more about the tile project. Maybe you should talk about that, Deb.
Yeah.
The tile project, we wanted to do a healing wall using tiles, and so the majority of the tiles were made on the hospital unit and the crisis unit. Also the addiction center participated, and also the outpatient detox program. So we had tiles, 4-inch square tiles that were already bisque fired, and the clients were asked to use glazes and paint a healing image on their tile. So we ended up with 300 tiles, and we are grouting those on panels. We'll have 6 panels that are 2 feet by 4 feet, and they're framed, and hopefully they will soon be hanging in the hospital.
And they're beautiful, but they also have a message to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are no 2 tiles alike, so you can spend a lot of time looking at a panel and just seeing what was a healing image for them. This one also I brought especially. It says on the side, Tree of Life. It says, stay firmly rooted. And the reason I brought this is because this was made by a client in the outpatient detox program. And she was so taken, I think, by the help she received that she donated $1,000 to this project.
That is wonderful. Well, what I'm hearing is this is a collaborative, and we're getting the community involved here, because didn't somebody from Village of the Arts donate some of the tiles or the firing of them? You've had potters donate.
Yes,
to the
yes.
process.
A potter fired all the tiles.
Yes.
Who lives in the Village of the Arts. And also, coming back to the quilt project, that was funded by a grant that we received through one of the restaurants in the Village of the Arts.
See, isn't that beautiful how the people come together and the stories get told? The community benefits in some
Absolutely.
ways. How would you say the community benefits from seeing these things?
Well, I think they benefit in a number of different ways. I mean, again, they get a little different take on people who are impacted by a mental illness. The clients themselves take on a different identity. It gives them an identity as an artist. And I think that gives them, it boosts their self-esteem, gives them hope.
There's really no downside to art. I was thinking
don't
about
think
this
so.
when you were saying, other than you might
No.
get your table dirty, other than that, I don't think there's a downside.
I don't think so.
And Jason, obviously you've benefited in some ways. I mean, you've explored a new medium for your art expression. Have there been other things that you've said, wow, by being a part of this art process, it's really helped me?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I learned doing this quilting project is that how important teamwork is, that everybody had a certain role. It was my role to design this quilt, and then it was someone else's role to stitch it, and someone else's role to cut certain different, cut the circle out, which isn't an easy task to cut a circle out.
No.
I used some difficult, thick fabrics on this too. And it was just the teamwork of everybody getting together and sharing each week for 6 months, the 4 of us. And then there were 2 quilters and a couple of advisory people, and so with Deb and Cindy and such. So it was just teamwork is what I got most out of this, is how important that was to get this quilting project done. Don't you agree?
Oh,
Deb?
I think so, absolutely.
I've heard that mental health problems and addictions can be isolating. Is that true? So does this help in the overall process, any of these arts?
I think
Exercises?
so. I mean, one of the things is that the clients really develop their social skills. And the focus is not so much right on them. It's really more on their creating art. And so as they're creating art, they're visiting with each other. And they're visiting about what they're creating. So it just kind of, helps them naturally.
Now, you had told me before about outside of Manatee Glens, you had been at Shands Hospital.
Yes.
And don't they use that with
Yes.
cancer patients?
Yes, there's an arts and medicine program. They really originated that, I think back in the 90s. And I worked with them for a period of time doing art at the bedside at one of their facilities. So they, at the time I worked for them, they had a team of about 12 artists. And some of their artists were also therapists. But when you're doing expressive art, you're really not operating so much as a therapist.
And I think you were saying at Shands that it helps them focus on something other than the pain.
Absolutely.
And that's
Absolutely.
probably a universal
Yes.
with anybody in any medical situation.
Yes,
And so are you a pioneer amongst therapists by doing expressive arts therapy? Is this a new field? Is this a growing field?
I don't think it's particularly new. Certainly not in the mainstream hospital. I think it's been around for a while, but it's, I think, rapidly increasing. I think in the mental health field, it's not necessarily new either. I mean, art therapy, of course, per se, has been around for a long time. The difference with expressive arts is that we're combining all the arts, and there's actually a term, it's called intermodal. So if I do a visual arts process, I might also include some writing. I might have the client do some writing about their piece once they've finished it. And when I was in the program at Ringling, we also had to actually physically move to our piece or make sounds that our art piece might emit. So it's the combination. It's the idea that one avenue will enhance the other.
Absolutely, and it's something that I know Manatee Glens embraces the idea of using a lot of different types of therapies to help. I don't want time to get away from us, so I want to mention the beautiful painting that you have behind you.
Yes, this was done by Kathy Gibbs. It's an acrylic painting. It's entitled The City, and she was also part of the quilt project.
That's right.
So she's participated in a couple of our projects, and we have some clients, about 6 clients that participate every year in the client art show, who are really practicing artists, and so she won Best of Show for her painting, and she was just absolutely elated. She tried to give me the check back. So
no, she doesn't know about starving artists.
No.
Take that.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece, and I've enjoyed looking at it and trying to figure out what city it represents. And I think everybody has their own take on what city that could be.
Right.
Which is
right.
probably the beauty of art, and that we all see something different in it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And Jason, finally, we've just got a couple minutes here to close. What would you say, what's going to be next for you? What's your next big challenge? Since you've done quilting, what's next?
I think my next big thing is going to be getting into blowing my own glass beads, making my own beads out of glass, and then taking glass beads and coloring them with other glass beads, adding a dibble and a dabble of color here to make what they call lampwork beads. So I think that's going to be my next endeavor, is to make my own beads.
Well, you don't shy away from anything, do you?
I try not to.
That's a challenge. This has been good. Is it good for your recovery process, your healing process?
Absolutely. It gives me a way. You know, I was a commodities analyst for 15 years, and when I got sick and had to go tone my life down, I had to find something to keep me busy, so art was the way that I could find that way.
Absolutely, and I think that, could it be said, Deborah, that for anyone that perhaps art is a good venue or outlet?
Oh, totally, absolutely. And everybody has creativity. You have creativity too, Sandra. And so we really encourage the clients, when they're not in group, to use their journals and to do some art. And just if they do a scribble in their journal every day, I literally mean a scribble. And then they can use those scribbles to find images in them, and so it's great. It provides a catharsis, and again, if you're focusing on what you're doing artistically, that takes you away from any type of physical or emotional pain.
It's excellent, and it's beautiful, and we have lots more that we could talk about, and I look forward to doing this again. I appreciate very much, Deborah and Jason, that you were here with us today. That does wrap up today's edition of the Manatee Glens Report. Thank you very much, Deborah McKeever and Jason Winfield. You've given us a lot of great ideas for how art can enhance our lives. Thank you to the audience for tuning in to the Manatee Glens Report here on METV, where you can learn something new every day. We'll see you next time.